Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kitchen Chat TV on the Road. I am Margaret McSweeney, your host, and delighted you're joining me outside of my kitchen today here at the iconic Trader Vic's at the Beverly Hilton with the legendary chef George Geary, who has a fabulous new book we're going to chat about LA's legendary restaurants, and we're going to learn the secrets and also, of course, chat about the wonderful dishes that were featured there. So welcome to Kitchen Chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to my state.
Oh.
And it's sunny every day here.
Oh, yeah. Don't rub it in, especially in the winter in Chicago.
I'll email you. I love picking on people.
Oh, that's great. Well, this is just so special. First of all, that we had met at the International Association of Culinary Professionals.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was doing tours for them pre-convention, and I did one all on the places that these restaurants used to be. So at first I thought it was a strange tour. I was just going to point out, well, that's where that was. But then we sat at a few restaurants that have come back and from the grave, you could say, and we had lunch at one of them and used all the iconic recipes. So we had a great tour. So
this is exciting. Well, if you can take us back in time, if you could, to Trader Vic's, what were some of the specialties? What were some of the exciting secrets here? Tell us about
fascinating. Let's go back. 1955, this Hilton opened up, and Conrad Hilton was here, and he brought in a team that he wanted a restaurant like and a hotel like no other. So when he brought that, Trader Vic's was the first one here, and it was kind of Polynesian, kind of Cantonese. There was a lot of, I always say you put pineapple in something and it becomes an island food. So they did things like that, and the executive chef here, the 747 started up. And so he started doing the food on United Airlines. So all this different history. Trader Vic's closed down a number of years ago, and to kind of keep the feel, the Hilton here has put a Trader Vic's like little bar. So it's very small. It has a few appetizers. It doesn't have anything like it. We would not be able to film if we were in the original Trader Vic's because it's so dark. And all the cubbies were dark, so stars could have little rendezvous. So, but
And what was like the featured signature dish on their menu?
oh, they had so many different ones, but a lot of pork and pulled pork and different things like that. You still can find some Trader Vic's. Chicago has one at the Hilton there. There's a few that you feel like you go back in time, but I think there was about 16 total at one point.
Wow.
But yeah, so Trader Vic's is one of the 60 restaurants in my book.
Wonderful. And at Beverly Hilton, it's truly an iconic culinary place. And can you share with us a little bit more about the history of another restaurant?
Oh, when it opened up, L'Escoffier opened up at the top level here, and they flew in a number of French stars. They had a fashion show the first night. You can go on YouTube and see the whole opening, and it's like a half-hour show. It's really fascinating, of black and white, and all the stars came, and it was a big thing. French food back in the 50s in America, as we know, wasn't that big, and so they thought French fries was French food. So they brought in chefs, and they did all of the glamour, and it was just beautiful. And so when this hotel had been redone a few times, they took out these places. But this was Merv Griffin's hotel for a while. He owned the property, and a lot of awards were here, and it's had good and bad things happen here, like every hotel in America.
Yes.
So.
And the Golden Globes are held here each year.
Yeah, it's amazing. Behind here used to be a iconic. We've got kids here too. We're poolside, which it's beautiful out here today. It's so Hollywood. If you want to see Hollywood, you come out to the pool here. But yeah, it just was a phenomenal place here, and it still is.
Yes.
And this is behind was Robinson's department store. There was one downtown Los Angeles, the J.W. Robinson's. That was store number 3, they called it. They all were numbered. And they tore it down a few years ago. I'm very much into preserving. I come into Chicago and work with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation, saving their houses. So I don't strap myself to the buildings, but I hope that they save them. In fact, there's a restaurant on Sunset, about 5 minutes from here, that was just torn down the other day, and to make room for a Marriott hotel. And it was a beautiful building that they could have incorporated into the hotel, like the lobby or something. But it was Scandia, and it was a mid-century hotel. Mid-century modern building. But so that's kind of this whole land around here. The new hotel is being built right next door, and it's this is where those awards are. So when they fly up above and you can see the red carpet, we drove right where that red carpet is. So it's really interesting. So I love showing people my area.
Yes, it's so exciting. And so you really decided, how did you decide about which iconic, legendary restaurant in LA to feature?
What it was when I said I wanted to do a historical restaurant, I was looking at restaurants that only stars went to, and it was only Hollywood. Then I was coming out with, we've got some historical restaurants that people didn't go to, that were stars. Then we had, which I think is fascinating, mostly the political season we're in right now, we had Republican restaurants and we had Democrat restaurants at the same time. And these two restaurants were both, because Reagan came here a number of times, and they called this, Nixon was here a number of times, and they called this the Western White House for a while. So they used the hotel. So I didn't, everyone says the first thing I mention is it's going to be a historical restaurant, they say, is the Brown Derby in it? And so that's why that's on the cover, as the Brown Derby.
And tell us about the Brown Derby. I don't know the history, and what's the significance?
Well, the building itself looked like a hat, and people thought these buildings that look like a hat means that they're selling hats inside. But it really was, the food was very American, you could say. Monday nights they served a certain chicken dish that was packed with heavy cream. That it's in my book, and they used MSG a lot in the recipes and to flavor them up. But Mae West lived around the corner from there, and she and her publicist would go there on, I believe it was Thursday nights. They would go and have their meetings and stuff like that. So Mae West, fascinating lady. She lived around the corner, like I said, at a condo unit. It was the first condo unit that they had a doorman. In California, we don't have doormen. And she lived on the 8th floor. I think I mentioned this in the book. She lived at the 8th floor of this condo unit, and she didn't like the color of the place across the street, the little apartment complex, so she bought it so she could repaint it. But she stayed living in her 8th floor. 801 was her number. So she liked all white. Was the color of so she would go and she'd have the same booth all the time, and that's kind of like what would happen. The Cobb salad I did put in the book, and the Cobb salad, when you make it my way, is the original way. When we think of a Cobb salad, it's just all thrown together. But they would do it tableside. It would have the rows of all the vegetables, and then they would toss it tableside, and you got a better flavor and a presentation. So, and Cobb is the one that started the Mr. Cobb started the restaurant. What they did is the original location is now where I think a 32-story office building. So they took the house, the building, and moved it across the street. Stayed there for about 40 years, I'd say. And now if you go, it's really sad. This is why I want people to realize these things happen. This is now, they put it in the top floor as part of the building of a strip mall. And it's directly across the street from the Baster Hotel that's also in the book, and that's where Robert Kennedy was killed. So that's where I've got some murders. But and that hotel isn't there anymore. It's now a school. So, but I have all these little, everything intertwines in the book. Yeah, all the way. So it starts in 1909 and goes all the way to the 80s. 86, I think, is the last restaurant. And we have Wolfgang Puck in there, that from Spago's, the original.
Wonderful. One of my favorite restaurants
Yeah.
to go to. Oh, and I love Barbara Lazarov.
Oh yeah. She Barbara, his former wife, and a smart lady,
Yes.
and very.
Dear friend. Yes.
She probably she made him what he is. I say, there's always a great woman behind, somebody. But she, I've known her for years, and just phenomenal lady.
Yes, she
Yeah,
is.
yeah. She
Oh.
designed the inside of the restaurants, and they're still good friends.
Exactly. And I love that Barbara has Flame of Life because that was the pattern
Yeah.
at Spago's, and she now has dinnerware, and the proceeds go to charity.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. She really does a lot with charity, and she's always got something going on like that. But the original Spago's location is for sale. It was built in 1934, I believe. The building itself by an architect, and it's just sitting there empty off of Sunset, and because he had both locations, that one and the Beverly Hills, running for about a number of years at the same time. So that's why I call it Spago's Sunset. So we have to differentiate the names.
Yes.
But people said they never called it Spago's Sunset, but that was a way in my book to figure out that I was talking about that Spago's.
Perfect. And what is another favorite restaurant that you really enjoyed learning more about? And
Well, I like things that come up that are like a phoenix. The Pig and Whistle restaurant that was on Hollywood Boulevard is shut down for about 45 years. They reopened it recently, probably in the past 5 years, and they redid it to where it's almost original inside. That's right on Hollywood Boulevard. And that was where Shirley Temple used to go and get her candies and stuff before the movies. It was right next door to a movie house. And back in the day, movie houses didn't have concession stands, so you go to some place after or before. And so that's where the Pig and Whistle was right next door. And so I like when they redo the places and they really look nice. So that was a really interesting. Then Hamburger Hamlet. There was some in Washington, D.C. There might be one still as we talk, but the original family does own it. I went to the original owner, his memorial service. See, when I was researching this book, I went everywhere. And they were the first to have an integrated workforce during the 60s because some people couldn't work in certain places. So they were really behind. And she, what I liked about her, the Lewis was her last name. She had a manual, and it should be a manual today for people. You don't call it fried, you call it sautéed. She had certain buzzwords of what you would say. So you didn't say low fat, you would just use a different word. She had all these different words that made it sound like sauté does sound better than fried.
Yes,
And if you look, a frying pan or a sautéed pan, So she had a way of doing things. So she sold the company years ago, and her two sons had 2 restaurants. So I go into all that in the book. So I do a lot of personal things in the book. My mom was a car hop back in the 40s, 50s.
And what is a car hop?
Car hop, roller skates.
Oh, okay.
But she did it when she was 14 is when she first started working. And there's a restaurant that's no longer there, Tiny Nailers. It was down on Sunset and Highland, and now it's an ugly strip mall. So I want people to see these pictures of these places too. So yeah, and there's a chicken restaurant that was the first place that Brad Pitt worked in a chicken costume. So he was standing there. Could you imagine? You're driving by and this kid is with the chicken costume, and 20 years later, he's one of the highest paid movies. That's Hollywood for you. You turn the corner and there's something going on.
Wow.
It really is.
And it sounds like there's so many great things going on in your new book, and I'm definitely going to put a link to this for the viewers. Here is a copy of the cover, and that's the Brown Derby on it.
That's 1923, I believe it was. And this gal, we were looking to see if we had a model release for her, but we didn't, so we still used it. We have a feeling no one would know who she is. But we've got lots of stars in the book. The book is a coffee table book. It's 330 something pages, and it's got a lot of information besides the text. Over 100 recipes and all the pictures in it too, and all the recipes. If I couldn't get a recipe, I would try to recreate as best I could, but pretty much and then I had to recreate some recipes to get rid of the MSG and things like that.
Yes.
But we have Michelli's. Oh, that's another one. That's a great place you should go. It's a pizza joint. And it's the first place that served pizza in LA, and this is where the Beatles went before they played at the Hollywood Bowl in the 50s. So or the 60s, and that is on a little tiny street. And when you go in, you think you've gone into another world, and all these operatic singers start singing while they're serving you pastas and pizza. But the family still runs the place, and they came over and started back when Hollywood was new. So, yeah.
Well, this just sounds like the perfect pairing of culinary and Hollywood history.
And the buildings and the historical, because I have one. He did Perinos and he did Chasen's. He was the designer, and when I was doing the research, I always heard that he wasn't allowed to eat in the restaurants because he was African American. And so I talked to his foundation, and they said, we never found a receipt for the places, but we can't say he never ate there, but he might have been eating in the back room. So... Oh, and then I have a fascinating place close to the beach called Say Jay's.
Okay.
That is a little bar. It's a dump, but it's beautiful. And they have peanut shells all over the place. And it is a lot of historical, terrible things happen there.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's all pretty proven. What I did in the book is I said I tried to use as best facts as I could. If there was something that wasn't like the architect not being able to eat in his restaurant, I didn't put that in. But I tried to stay pretty close to as best I could, and not like my other 9 books previous to this one. Those were all recipes. This I had to really go down to the LA library and do research. So I even have the old phone numbers too. Yeah, back in the day, Spagos, you couldn't get in unless you had the other phone number. So I have the other phone number listed. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Oh, this is...
Oh, Ma Maison restaurant. That was Wolfgang Puck started there, and the owner Patrick Terrell. He lives in Alabama now, and he's doing a magazine
my
there.
home
That's your
state.
home state, and he is a fascinating guy, and my publisher wanted me to take a certain section out, and it was all it's true facts. Before they had cameras a lot, he had them set up outside so he could see what you were wearing to see if your handbag was real, and he would, if he had room in the restaurant for you. And so he was very picky on what people were wearing, and if they weren't doing certain things, he wouldn't have a room in the restaurant for it. Yeah. So just if you were a nobody, he kept you a nobody.
all
I had
of
to
this,
pull that out.
all of this intrigue, and I love how so many firsts began here in Hollywood. So you were talking about the Cobb salad. I never realized that at Brown Derby. What are some other featured
Hot Fudge
foods?
Sundae.
Yes.
Then we had the French dip sandwich, but I don't have it in the book, but that was here. Those restaurants weren't that significant. The pizza for here in California was Michelli's, had the first one. We had, oh boy, some more first. First Trader Vic's was here, so it was the Polynesian-ish. First Escoffier was here. We had a lot of firsts, and we don't want those things to leave. We want people to still, so that's where the book comes in, and you can read all about those firsts and the recipes.
I love that, Chef George, that you're helping us preserve history and recipes and all of these stories. And what is next? I mean, you have this wonderful book. I'll make sure I put the link and everything. And what else is on your plate?
Well, see, I have a tour company. I take people on food adventures of Europe every year. So we live in a villa south of France, and I'm sold out for the next 2 years. So, yeah. And then I have my morning show in San Diego. So I do the food segments down there, and I teach all around the country. And I've got 2 more books in the works after this. So I've got, back up with a little bit of history. Back in the 80s, I did all the cheesecakes for Golden Girls. So when you watch the show, I did all the food prep. So my 12th book will be another cheesecake book. I've got 2 out already, but the 12th book will be all on everything cheesecake, like cheesecake muffins too, not just cheesecake. So there'll be about 300 recipes of cheesecakes.
I love that. And so did you meet Betty White?
I many times, all of them. Yeah, I've got over the years. So I worked on that show for a number of years. They taped on Friday nights, but I only saw it taped twice because I was off work. I didn't want to go to work. It's like when I worked at Disney, I didn't go play on the rides, and when I wasn't working there, I was out of there.
Well, I will now look at those episodes and look for the cheesecake.
I can tell what year it is by the cheesecake. If it's completely plain, it's the first 2 years. If you got raspberry sauce, it's the 3rd year. If it's got whipped cream, it's the 4th year. Every year they have me change it up. Yeah, so, yeah.
Always just so much fun to hear your stories, and I'm so excited you have this book. We'll make sure we put a link and a link to your website as well. And thank you so much, Chef George.
Thank you for coming to my area of the world.
And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning into Kitchen Chat. I so appreciate you going on this culinary journey. And please visit my kitchen, kitchenchat.info, and always remember to take a moment and savor the day.